So we've talked about your motivations, and we've talked about the resources that you've used. So let's focus now on any advice that you can give to other developers who are coming into this industry. I know that we've touched on quite a few already, but if you were having a conversation with yourself, what would you say to yourself if it was, say, 2 years ago when you were just thinking about doing this? Is there any kind of advice that you would give?
Definitely, plenty. First of all, people have to realize that the way it's being advertised right now on YouTube, like all these become a web developer in 2 months, become a web developer in 6 weeks, that's not reality.
No.
It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
You might get there in 3 months and get an entry level job, but you will have to put in a lot of time.
Yeah.
And not everybody has the luxury to do that. I didn't, so it took me a while. But yeah, main advice would be it takes a lot of time to get not even good, but it takes a lot of time to actually understand how a website works.
Yes.
Like what is the front end, what is the back end?
Yeah.
What are databases for? Stuff like that. Also another thing, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself because, if you go on Twitter and you start following all these super successful people that work for Facebook, they work for Google, and all these big companies, the worst thing you can do is like starting to compare your skill set to their skill set. Like I'm 25 years old, right? And like last week on Twitter, Max Stoiberg, I think is the pronunciation of the name, basically the person who came up with styled components, he said, "Oh, it's my birthday today. I'm turning 22. And I was like, okay, I'm 3 years older than this guy, and I'm nowhere near his skill set. But that's a completely wrong way of thinking for self-taught developers, especially for those who are just getting started. Focus on your skills, focus on your skill set, and improving yourself, and don't worry what other people are doing. And also, other thing, find if you're gonna follow people on Twitter, find people who you can relate to. Like for me, when I first got into this industry, I realized that like I don't fit in very well because like I'm not sitting behind the computer all day every day. I like to do sports, I like to work out, I like running, I like doing fun stuff as well in my free time. So when I found Ken Wheeler on Twitter, I was like, oh, I found my spirit animal. Here's the guy who's actually super successful, super smart, but he's also like a huge man child. He swears all the time, and I was like, okay, not the only one.
Yeah.
So yeah. But biggest advice, don't be hard on yourself, and be prepared that this is going to take some time.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Enjoy the process, because it's not, as I said, it's not about. There is no end to this. There is nothing like, oh, I'm going to study on my own for 2 years, and then I'm going to get that job, and I'll be perfectly happy. I won't have to do anything ever again. It's not about that. It's about the process, because I believe that if you want to do this for a living, you really need to enjoy it, and you need to, like spending time, coding. You need to love it to skip that birthday party. You need to love it to skip that trip that your friends are going on, but you're not, And if you're doing it just because it pays well, which is true, but if you're doing it for the sole purpose of getting paid and having money, you're not gonna be happy. So
happiness is so important.
Absolutely, it's the most important thing, because
coding can be quite a lonely process, because you are within your own thoughts a lot of the time until you get things checked and reviewed. it's not as social, I think, as other industries, other jobs. So that, I mean, that's one thing that I would say is be comfortable working with your own thoughts, and have sort of a way of managing yourself, I think. I mean, it's probably different here because I'm a remote dev, but I've also worked in offices where people just have headphones on.
Yeah.
And so they're isolated. Whereas if you go into another department, they're messing about, they're doing other things, and that is still true in coding, but there is this sort of the zone that people do go in, and
some people love that. Some people love that, and I like it as well, to be honest with you. I like people. I like talking to people, but I really love the fact that I can just listen to music for 8 hours a day, every day, and not be bothered. Because when I worked my first job, the fraud prevention job, I would call the customers. I would call the companies that were, it was like, oh, this is Tom from X, Y, and Z company. I just wanted to check that we're dealing with a legitimate company, and if you place the order. And I didn't like that at all. So I kind of, I'm enjoying the fact that, I can just chill, not really chill. You have to work, but I can have my headphones in and listen to some nice music.